Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fragrant Bunker. Today we're going to review a masterpiece. Carnal Flower by Dominic Ropion for Frederic Malle Fragrances. Now, there's a lot to say about this one. It's a complicated one. It's a difficult one. It's not to everyone's liking. I adore it, so much so that I had to purchase a full 100 ml bottle a few years back. Not a big dent in the bottle, but that's because I treat this as an extrait, as a pure perfume. It is so intense that half a spray, tops one spray, is enough. And if you overdo it, and if you don't do it in the right setting, in the right atmosphere, you will suffer under it, and so will others around you potentially. Now, everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's alleged and just my opinion, so bear with me. And also, while you're at it, subscribe to my channel, thumb up the video if you're enjoying it, and push the join button next to the subscription button to gain access to extra perks. Become a member today. You can also join me on Patreon, superdacob, all spelled together there as well, for extra perks. This video is being filmed live in front of a live virtual audience. I live stream several times a week on my main superdacob channel, so go follow me there and join the live chats. Hi to my co-chattors. Carnal Flower. 2005 is the year when it was released. And there's a lot of texts that accompany this fragrance. Frederic Malle has changed the accompanying text that describes the fragrance on their website. A lot of reviews have been made on Carnal Flower, the tuberose fragrance, okay, to end all tuberose fragrances. But here's an older description text from the Frederic Malle website, and it states, Carnal Flower, or forbidden flower, is a fragrance with the scent of tuberose. Tuberose is a beautiful and dangerous flower. In some cultures, it is not allowed for young women to feel its intoxicating scent after sunset, and in some cultures, not allowed to smell it at all because it is believed that the tuberose is so intoxicating and hormonal and sexual that, well, if you're too young, you might lose your virginity just by smelling the flower. Tuberose is a symbol of forbidden pleasure, hiding its passionate sensual character behind its fresh, white, floral face. Its intoxicating scent seduces many perfumers. Frederic Malle and creator Dominic Ropion tried to repeat this scent in their particular way. Frederic Malle was inspired for Carnal Flower during his visits to California, where everything smells like gardenia and tuberose. Well, everything also smells like jasmine. They forgot about the jasmine. But there is jasmine in here as well. Dominic Ropion worked on development of the formula for more than 2 years. That's a long time. And we're not going to wait too long to spray it. I've already sprayed it here 2.5 hours ago for the dry down. Smooth. And now we're going to spray freshly right here. No. Too much. I missed it. I sprayed here instead of here. So now we overdosed. But that's okay. I know this perfume so well since many years. It's fine. Oh man, it is green to the core. Oh, you smell it and you fall into this landscape, and I've prompted my Bubbles bot to generate a tuberose, abstract tuberose landscape, and I wanted it to be particularly green and humid right after the rain or during the rain. And it's like you just have to, you drop into this landscape, and you are small, and the tuberose is bigger than you. The tuberose flower is this big. But now in this screen, this flower looks like it's almost the size of my head. I'm shrinking and this perfume is enhancing and growing. That's how it feels when you apply it. It's an otherworldly experience. It really takes you to a place where the majestic green camphorous aspect of tuberose dominates the world, and you are but a humble servant to this majestic goddess. But it's so green in the opening. I mean, it's like there's nothing floral about it. In the opening, it's like green grass, green vegetation, green jungle in humidity. It's wet, it's moist, it's deep, it's soily, it's earthy. I mean, this thing is pure, pure carnal vegetable instinct. It's insane. The perfume contains a larger dose of tuberose, so Frederic Malle says. The perfume contains a larger dose of tuberose absolute, more than any other perfume. The composition opens with heavy green notes of citrus leaves and branches. As tuberose develops, the green nuance passes into a note of camphorous note, which softens the opulent flowers unintrusively. Fruity nuances of melon and coconut add light and a slightly gourmet sound to the composition and do not attract attention. The muse for this perfume was Frederic Malle's aunt. That's a little bit interesting tidbit of information. Candice Bergen, of all people. Candice Bergen, aunt, famous actress and aunt of Frederic Malle, who acted in the movie Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson. She's the inspiration for this fragrance, apparently. Now, we all know her from Murphy's Law. I mean, the sitcom. She was born in 1946 on May 9th in Beverly Hills. And Murphy Brown. Murphy Brown was her was her famous sitcom. Murphy Brown in the legal court system. I mean, everybody watched Murphy Brown. Nowadays, you can see Candice Bergen in the new Sex and the City, and just like that. She used to be Carrie Bradshaw's boss while she was at Vogue. She was kind of like the Anna Wintour, right? Then she lost the job, and now in the new series and Just Like That, she's kind of a socialite, collecting money, fundraising for charities, because that's what the rich people do. And Carrie Bradshaw is still dealing with her. That was the inspiration. She was the muse for Carnal Flower. Bear that in mind. Murphy Brown, baby. Murphy Brown. The top notes contain bergamot, melon, and eucalyptus. And this is where we are dropped into this jungle. It's a jungle. A sophisticated jungle. No man has touched it forever. And you're dropped in this beastly natural environment where all of the elements are against you, because nature is ruthless. Nature doesn't have a heart. Nature doesn't have empathy. Nature is all about survival and the instinct of surviving. When a volcano erupts, it does not ask the animals surrounding it or the potential villagers living in the bottom of the valley of the volcano, hey, is it a good time for me to erupt now? No. It just does what it does. The oceans move as they move. Tornadoes, hurricanes. I mean, nature is brutal, but it's also brutally beautiful. There's something, the ravaging aspect of nature has incredible poetry to it, right? And this perfume so majestically mimics the power of nature. So beautiful. And those green notes, they slowly start to subside as we enter the mid notes, which include ilang ilang, a smidge of ilang ilang. It's not creamy enough to be ilang ilang, ilang ilang, you know what I mean? But there's ilang ilang, jasmine, tuberose, and they also list the salicylates, or the natural toxic product of herbal origin, a sort of a herbal pheromone which is used by plants, guess what, as a warning. So what we encounter here as we dive deeper into Carnal flower and as we hit the heart notes, we are warned. We are in the kind of the so-called anticamera, the pre-chamber. We're in the anti-chamber, the chamber before the main chamber, before the doors completely open to this new world. Someone heeds a warning. In fact, tuberose is listed in the heart notes before we hit the bottom notes, and tuberose will be back in the base notes. We got a double playa here. So we have this warning being shot at us, saying, hey, you're a little bit too curious. You want to venture into this jungle, into this natural habitat. Are you sure you can handle it? Are you sure you can come out alive? And so here's where the salicylates, these natural toxic products of herbal origin, this herbal pheromone warns you and tells you, be careful, because if you keep going in this direction, you might lose yourself forever. And well, you're a little bit curious. The smell is a little bit repulsive, but also a little bit tantalizing. You want to find out what's on the other side, of those thick vegetations, forests, and trees, and you want to go deeper into that jungle. You want to find the core. You want to find the heart. And you say to yourself, yeah, okay, I understand the dangers. I have been warned, but I still decide at my own peril and risk to keep going. And then, let's go to the dry down. We start hitting the bass notes. And here we meet the queen. We meet tuberose absolue, the absolute of tuberose, orange blossom absolute, coconut and musk. This is where, in the dry down, we encounter the queen. This is a mythological creature. It's a god in this world, worshipped and feared at the same time by all living creatures, and maybe some inanimate objects as well. The rocks fear a drop of that absolute falling on them, and they try to move even though their motion is secular, to try to escape. But at the same time, they crave it. They want a piece of that action. They want, even the rocks wish to smell carnal flower. And once we pass on through the jungle into that last step, into that last field, into that last clearing, surrounded by thick vegetation, we encounter the tuberose. But this tuberose only exists at its full godly potential in the rain. That's where this perfume is at its peak. It is most beautiful when worn in the rain. This camphorous note that is so typical to tuberose, and we also find this camphorous note in an 80s tuberose bomb, which was poisoned by Christian Dior, the original poison from the 80s, with the plum note and the opoponax, as well as the tuberose. that is a Camphoris tuberose. And the epitome of Camphoris tuberose would be Serge Louton's Tuberose Criminelle. There you get a full-blown Camphoris effect of tuberose. Here, we're playing on many different levels. Like the description says, Dominic Ropion took not a couple of months, like as opposed to what Francis Courjan says in one of his latest interviews. He said, to like Baccarat Rouge, took him only a couple of weeks to create, be done with. Maybe he's masterful enough to be able to deliver magic in just a short period of time, but I like to hear a perfumer tell me that it took them 2 years to develop a fragrance. And they state that it took them 2 years to develop Carnal Flower with all that subtle balance and nuances. And I think to myself, boy, it took them 2 years, and yet they still allowed this perfume to be full of natural rage of creation and green. In other words, it's fabulous to me to hear or to smell that it's not like Dominic Ropion spent 2 years trying to tame the tuberose. You know what I mean? He spent 2 years trying to discover its secrets so that he can harness the power of the tuberose. Rather the opposite. The way this perfume smells to me, it feels as though Dominic Ropion worked so hard in order to preserve, in perfume form, the natural opulence and rage of the tuberose plant and flower in all its facets. It feels like he was a disciple of the goddess tuberose rather than being the master perfumer of the tuberose. It feels rather that he was almost like a priest in the temple of the tuberose, trying to preserve its natural rage and beauty by adding subtle nuances to the composition to allow the tuberose to shine in its full glory without ever overpowering it, enhancing its magic and enhancing its power rather than taming and dominating it. And that is what makes Carnal Flower so beautiful. To see a perfumer letting go of his ego in a way. Now, I do not know Dominic Ropion. I do not know if his ego is in the way. We all have issues with our egos sooner or later in our lives. But this perfume smells of somebody who has let go of the ego and who's trying to literally add a beautiful frame to a picture that's already there rather than repainting the picture. It's almost like he's restorating. He's a restorator. He's preserving something from this ancient world that we thought was long gone. And here comes Dominic Ropion, and he delivers a full-blown restoration of this incredible, magical temple that we found in the middle of nature. We didn't even know it existed. It was always there, this tuberose temple. And he has been working for 2 years trying to understand it, to preserve it, restoration finally complete, and the final product delivered is a subtle, complex balance of the coconut, the jasmine, the melon note, the orange blossom, the bergamot, the eucalyptus, even the smidge of ylang ylang. All of these players and characters in this game, they're all priests of this temple. All of these ingredients are priests, just like Dominic Ropion. And they all function and serve the preservation of the tuberose, the survival of the tuberose. In other words, to keep its memory alive. It's so intense and so overpowering that the only way to enjoy this perfume is to learn to let go of yourself and let it envelop you and take over. That's where the dosage is imperative in order to really enjoy this fragrance and not suffocate, not feel sick of it. I missed the first spray. It went a little bit off, and then I had to spray the second one, so now I already have too much. This is already too much. Plus, I have the dry down here from a couple of hours ago. It keeps emanating and pulsating. It's alive. It's a living thing. Okay? It's like you have stripped vegetation of all of its poetry and all of its allure and empathy and what artists and poets have been doing to kind of highlight the beauty of certain plants and vegetation. No, it's like Dominic Ropion took us back to nature. Ruthless, heartless nature. That's what nature is. There's no reason to be angry about it. That's nature. And this perfume is an ode to nature. It's like a chant to nature. I mean, all respect to Candice Bergen, Murphy Brown, all my respect to her, but this perfume is even bigger than her. I'm glad she was the muse allegedly for this fragrance, but this fragrance is much bigger than any person. It is nature with all its ruthlessness. And yet, here's where Dominic Ropion, in my opinion, manages to harness the power of an artist, of a true artist. What he delivers with Carnal Flower, yes, on one side, that ruthless nature, the rage of nature, the heartless aspect of nature. But what Carnal Flower does is he renders this picture so beautiful. He manages to create a portrait of nature with all of its ruthlessness and destruction in order to create again. He manages to render this painting in a beautiful way where the proportions are perfect. Everything displayed in this painting has its place for a reason. Every element in this painting has the right shadow, the right light texture. The hand strokes of the artist are so precise. There is no trembling that we can see in the brush strokes. There's no insecurity. It's like full-blown love and respect for nature, for this plant. Devotion, dedication, love. And so even though this plant cannot give us love, because nature doesn't love, really, the artist still decides to say, but I love you, nature, even though you cannot love me back. I still love you. And this perfume is literally a love letter to the brutality of nature. So all of a sudden it dawned on me, Carnal Flower might, in the description of this fragrance, be connected to the fact that tuberose is a highly sexual flower, and young girls from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period were not allowed to walk by the flower when it was in bloom because they might lose their virginity. That's how tantalizingly erotic this thing is. So carnal from that aspect. But no, it dawned on me, Carnal Flower, it refers to, in my book, after having worn this for so many years, it's more about the ravenous, rage-filled nature. That's carnal as well. Carnal doesn't always imply pleasure. Carnal can be highly dangerous, volatile, ruthless, where instinct takes over and dominates over all humanity, and humanity is lost. That's the Carnal Flower. The true carnal flower, in my opinion, within this fragrance is not about lust and sexuality. It's about letting go to the instinct of the brutality of nature, admiring how small we are compared to the forces of nature, respecting the fact we should not be spending all our existences, short existences, life is very short. We should not spend and waste our time trying to dominate the elements, but rather live with them in harmony, in unison, like the ebb and the flood, the ebb and the tide comes and goes. There's a rhythm to these things that brings you peace. There's a structure to these things. There's a mathematical equation. There's a physicality to these things that shows no empathy. It's carnal, but it's as beautiful as only a flower can be. One spray while you're walking through the rain of carnal flower, and you will feel all of that energy, nature, ancestors, the past, the rage, the pain, but also the pleasure. It's all going to electrify you. It's going to run through you. It's going to connect you to the core. That's carnal flower to me. Now you understand why, after so many years, I have used so little. Because this is a very potent potion, more than just a perfume. So it took me a long time to review it because I needed to really fine-tune my emotions and understand this perfume for myself as much as I can. So spraying it twice today and plus having the dry down is insane. I would never dare. I did this for the sake of the review, but I would never dare abuse this perfume so much. I respect it way too much to just kind of, you know. It's a little goddess standing in her temple, just like the ancient Egyptians had their gods, little tiny gods living in shrines in the temple of Karnak. And the priests and the pharaoh would pay their respects every day. They would entertain the little statue of the god. They would dance in front of it. They would offer it food. I'm not offering food to the perfume, obviously, but I do pay my respects to it. This is nature in a bottle. It is sublime. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do thumb it up. Subscribe to my channel. Let me know your thoughts about carnal flower and tuberose down below. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Bye.